Pleasant good morning, Virgin Islands, and happy paradise Tuesday to all. And this beautiful, hot, dry, nonetheless grateful for another sunrise in paradise. It's August 25th, 2026, the last Tuesday of the month of August. Once again, welcome to At the Table with Crucian Educator. It's my pleasure to serve as the host for this 1 hour radio talk show on the number one radio station, WSTX. You listen on your radio dial to 970 AM, and it's also streamed on YouTube as well as Facebook. Today, I do not have a guest in the studio, but I do have a call in guest, a senatorial candidate. You are allowed to ask questions, and there will be one line available at the end of the presentation, well, in half an hour into the presentation. It's my pleasure to welcome via telephone call a candidate for the 37th legislature. I will let him give you an introduction, and then I will be interviewing him. We have online Lese Gonzalez, senatorial candidate. Welcome. Can you hear me? Good morning. Let's see. Pleasant good morning. I'm not hearing anything. I don't know what happened. I'm not hearing anything.
Pass me the number. There we go. Hello?
Pleasant good morning.
Hey, good morning, good morning.
Okay, thanks for accepting the invitation. It's my pleasure. I have on the line a senatorial candidate. You can introduce yourself, and then I will conduct an interview.
Yes, good morning. My name is Jose B.C. Gonzalez, senatorial candidate for St. Croix, vying for the legislature. I'd like to say thank you for having me on your show. It's been a minute, but I appreciate it, and I'm willing to and ready to discuss any issues or any interview that you have for me.
Okay, well, I know the last time we were trying to get you on here in the studio, and you had an event involving a Buck Island trip. So,
Yeah, that was my summer program. So we had an activity, and I made obligations, and I apologize for that, but I made obligation with the youth then for our summer program, and I carried them out to Buck Island first time for summer then.
Yeah, well,
so the summer was very busy.
Action speaks louder than words. It demonstrates your commitment to the youth. So I want you to elaborate more on this summer camp that you had, and what is your main objective for running for the 37th legislature?
Well, first with the summer program, it's really an annual program, so it goes all year round. I probably take like 1 month, 1 month off. Normally now, for the last 2 years, I haven't taken any months off. It's a nonprofit organization called Positive Guidance Youth Club. We've been in existence for 20 years, nonprofit for 18. The summer program itself has been pushing, and has been growing and growing every year. And so for me, we have the summer program, which is we handle around 100 young people between the ages of 4 to 14 years old. And then the after school program, again, is the same, but it's a little more broader. It's from 4 to 18 years old.
Wow.
Positive guidance. So what we do at positive guidance is we use sports as a magnet to bring the young people to us. We give them the sport, we train them, we teach them, and then at the same time, when they start to love it, is when we start to incorporate the different family values and different events, different uh, you know different issues, discussing different issues around the community, tutoring, that goes with after school program, along with just do's and don'ts, no bullying. Like bullying is a big thing. I have to emphasize, like for my summer program, every morning we talk about no bullying, holding each other accountable, because I want any young person to come in front of positive guidance. I really would want them to come with no stress or no reason to not want to come because someone's bullying them. And it's a big thing that's going on in the schools that I hope that we could find ways to minimize it. So positive guidance that's what really brings it. And this year especially has been so, like, the young children are so involved now, and understanding that I'm running for Senate now, they're asking questions about politics, civics, and so it's a road that I am traveling and I'm experiencing with the young people. I took them to the radio station, made a commercial with my girls, the girls then for the organization, ages 8 to like 14 years old. So like the experience that I'm going through right now, they're going through with me.
So it's an ongoing
Yes.
program.
Annual. Yes.
So you still involved
Yep.
now that
Yes.
school has begun? So if anyone interested in having the children join, what information can you provide? How you go about contacting you and getting your children
There's a
involved?
couple ways you could reach out to us on Facebook, Positive Guidance VI, or you could reach out at my number 340-626-7559. Again, 340-626-7559. Once I speak to a parent, then we would put you in a WhatsApp group that would identify your child's age, date of birth, and then we'll be able to categorize them in what area they go. So we have new beginners, we have 8U, 10U, 12U, 14U, 16U girls, 18U. So we try to not have everyone at the same time, because the conversation at 18U might be different than a conversation a younger
Yes.
younger child may have. But yeah, you could reach me at those two, Facebook and Facebook Positive Guidance VI.
Positive guidance. Okay, very well. And you addressed the question that I have in mind to ask, but nonetheless, you could expound and your response. I would like to know, in your role in this community, what are you doing to enhance Virgin Islands pride, enrich our history, and promote Virgin Islands culture?
So when it comes down to especially with my young people is in front of me, and I deal with on a regular, we go back to the traditional, history and the things that as young people I might have done when I was younger, flying kite, playing top, all these different games that I incorporated within my summer program, and with them, I try to discuss. Well, I bring individuals in to discuss the history of St. Croix and the Virgin Islands. And I feel that's very important because if you don't know where you're from, then you don't know where you're going.
Exactly.
So I tend to, we haven't had a person there, someone come speak to the young people in a while for this year, but it's an annual thing, and I kind of try my best to bring different historians or different individuals that can inform our young people on certain issues that is going on within the Virgin Islands, has went on the history of the Virgin and the history of St. Croix, especially because I start with St. Croix first because we gotta know what's going on here, what has been going on here, and for more. So with that, I try to incorporate traditional things. So it's never a dull moment, and it's never a time that I don't try to teach our young people, if it's not history, financial literacy, if it's not financial literacy, it's just the way of life here on St. Croix and in the Virgin.
Now we see a lot's going on, positive and negative. We
Yes.
see, for example, St. Croix in particular is experiencing a drought, and we have issues about conserving water supply. We see there's a consideration for Southland Gaming Virgin Islands to maintain and operate the Randall Doc James racetrack. So a lot of issues, but positive things going on, like your organization.
Oh, yeah.
However, I'd like to know, how would you describe the state of the territory, and what would you say the five most important issues the Virgin Islands government must address?
Well, like I said before, I would say, of course, well, my main thing is definitely um, the state of our hospitals. The health of our people
Hmm.
should be always the most important thing. In any community, any island, any state, any city. So I know one of the most um, right now the issues that I for the life that I've lived cannot understand how our hospitals is in this deplorable, you know, um, situation right now. But I've been hearing some things improving. But going back to that, with the hospital, cost of living. And cost of living, we all know the contributing factor for why our cost of living is high, and that's WAPA. You
Hmm.
know, you know, WAPA has been a thorn, about forever. You know, so like I personally feel like things need to be fixed or worked out, and we need to move forward, which there are plans to move forward when it comes to the WAPA. But that, if we don't fix or figure out how we can, reduce the cost of
Right.
electricity, the cost of living is not going to go down. You
Well, you,
know,
you
well,
identify three, and all of them, of course, related to money. We live in a
yep,
capitalistic society. Money. Money.
right,
Having it and being able to manage it.
yeah,
However, I want you to pinpoint, because you mentioned about healthcare, WAPA, cost of living, but can you pinpoint
so,
two other issues you
yeah.
believe are priorities?
I think right now another big priority and a pressing issue is public safety.
Public
Public safety is
safety.
another concern.
Mm-hmm.
We have to address both enforcement and prevention. We keep thinking it's just enforcement only, but if we could start with prevention now, we won't have to use as much enforcement in the future. And that's where I feel like public safety is a major right now with crime on the rise on both islands, especially St. Croix. and the senseless killings that's going on. Public safety has to be addressed, and it has to start from dealing with our young people from a young age, and being able to put in the work necessary to help our young people focus on more positive outlets instead of just being able to just go there and following what the streets is providing for them. So I definitely believe, public safety is very, very much important, and it's contributes to the safety, health, and peace of our community. It's also tied into health, and mental health.
Yes. And of course, yes, it goes back again, like you saying, to
Yeah, and mental health is to me, another issue that we keep. Because like just like how we drive and we see a different face on the side of the road walking, I feel that that's how the government is dealing with mental health and the issues that mental health presents with our mentally ill population. And I feel like we just drive by and just see it and maybe pass a judgment or just speak on it, but we're not doing anything about it. We need to stop, you know, passing these issues and not being able to address them and make sure that they're a priority within the other scopes of issues that we have here in this crisis in St. Croix and the Virgin Islands.
well, they all, like I say, all relate to money. But even if you have all the money in the world, it's a matter how
Yeah.
you manage it and how you plan what programs that you put in place. So, do you have any plan and how you would address specifically the mental health issue?
But I've been doing some research and, is the main thing, like we're going right back to funding, is to find funding to be able to build, two different types of, facilities. One for emergency matters and issues when it comes to mental illness, which would allow, um, this specific facility will be able to manage and deal with individuals with mental illness at that particular moment, which is so it wouldn't be an influx at the emergency room, which is already, bombarded and overwhelmed.
So it's not like
So,
a psychiatric ward.
excuse me?
That would be like a psychiatric ward.
No, not quite. No, well, not quite. No, not a psychiatric. This particular
Okay.
facility will be a facility for like when someone just starts or begins to go through the depression and go through the different issues, not taking the medication. Like we have to have steps towards being able to. You remember, individuals with mental illness, they're just as normal at a point. Sometimes something might break them. Some issues might have led them to be in this mental state.
Mm-hmm.
And based on my experience, like with my mom, she went into a depression. And when
Mm-hmm.
she went into a depression, it slowly, increased and elevated to a higher level of, not being able to control certain
Right.
actions.
Being untreated.
Untreated. So that's where, a facility that provides short-term psychological support and
Mm-hmm.
care for individuals. So that's what I'm looking at, like immediate at that particular moment when that individual or that family member is going through this, depression or this state of mind, is where a short-term facility is needed to
Mm-hmm.
be able to assist in that. And then, if in the future, for those, especially those that we're seeing right now, a more long-term facility needs to be developed and constructed for our long-term patients that will have to be able to go through months, which is a crisis intervention center, you know, um, basically trying to be able to get more in-depth, help for individuals with mental illness. So to me, that is something that I'm looking towards because we really need both. We need one that will be able to help, hopefully help, have, individuals that are taking medication at that beginning stage.
Mm-hmm.
They're still in the denial phase. They still feel like, no, nothing is wrong with me. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of families are going through this. And, for that day, you have to be able to, like, when those episodes come in, you have a short-term facility that could be able to provide the necessary, help that's needed for that individual, for your family member, for your loved one. And then if it increases and it gets to a more extreme, then this is where a long-term facility would come in. A short-term one is a crisis intervention center.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And it's, we know, tied to homelessness because sometimes the person in that situation suffer from some form of mental illness, but unless poses an imminent threat to himself or herself or to others, that person can remain at a shanty and decline help. So
Yeah.
I don't know how could that be addressed if you, because we've seen a situation where I go on my journeys, the more than physical journeys for me, they're spiritual, mental journeys. I encounter individuals, one in particular by the Mumbi Shanti.
Mm-hmm.
She has declined help to find adequate housing, but that situation can remain indefinite. How would you deal with a situation where the person is declining help?
Yeah. The research on that, I still have to do some more research on that. But from my experience, as long as the person could be declining, and I'm just gonna go based on my personal experience and from what the little that I do know. As long as there's a family member that can attest to the person, a family member, a close family member, like in my situation, I had that authority to be able to make decisions for my mom.
Right.
At that particular moment when they become incoherent or not, to the stage.
You have power of attorney, right? It's called power of attorney?
Power of attorney,
yes.
So there are procedures and there are levels to be able to now have granted the consent to be able to make decisions for your loved one. So it's there. You just have to be able to go through the legalities. So if you really care for your loved one, you will go above and beyond for them. And for me, all you need is just a power attorney, and you'll be able to make decisions. And I had to make that decision for my mom, and I had to move her off island because there's no facility here.
That's the problem.
To,
Yes, that's a big problem. We don't have the facility. And when we did have one, the one Villa Morales, it was burned down. Well, and so I don't know. Unfortunately, but I have an idea. I try to think outside the box.
Yes.
And I like to know your thoughts on this. For families that do have a land space, own private land, and have a family member who may be able to get like a small cottage on their property. What do you think about if the government would offer directly and it will relieve a facility, a type of grant where they can build specifically some kind of structure, container home or whatever on the property, so it'll address the homelessness situation and give that person a measure of independence while being physically close to the family. And if intervention is necessary, they have that support system if need to go to a crisis center for short term. But the person have a permanent home. But in the case the family can afford, but some type of grant. What do you think about that idea?
The idea, it's actually, it exists, and a lot of these, a lot of individuals with mental illness, they do have a home at times that they could, live. They choose to be elsewhere, but that's a step in a good to going towards the right area. That's another solution that can be used.
Yeah,
But
like a
that person
twenty-five
is,
thousand dollar grant. You could put up something there in the
and
backyard.
oh, that's definitely, if that person is lucky enough to have family that has that space, I wouldn't be against it at all. But it always goes back down to funding. And, I've been doing some reading, and it's also, we as people can also help if we really, and that's where at the end of the day we could blame government a million times. And sometimes government needs to be held accountable for a lot of the situations we're in. But if we really do our research, there are also individuals that can open up their own business under resident business in which you could house individuals with mental issues, individuals that coming out of jail,
Mm-hmm.
individuals that need space to live.
Like a
And
halfway
you could,
house. Halfway house.
yes,
Yes.
yes, and there's a funding out there that will be provided to your business for you to allow these, situations, allow individuals to live in, in your house or your area or your establishment. So, if we collectively get together, we can't always believe that the government's going to solve every problem. We also need to start thinking outside the box, like you mentioned earlier, and we need to start getting more creative as a people if we really want St. Croix and the Virgin Islands to excel. We can't continue to be waiting on what's going on out there. And we can, the same issues that are arise in America, and now with AI, you just ask a question and you get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
May not be 100% accurate, but it's still somewhere that could get us and to teach us and different levels of what's going on in this world. And we are too often left hoping and guessing that the government is going to solve all our issues. And I think we need to start getting away from that, especially from a financial standpoint. We can't continue to be reliant on the federal government. We need to create our own ways for, for funding, for money, to build our economy. So sorry for going all the way that way, but yeah, we as a people need to get together and fix and figure out and build our own island instead of depending, at times on others.
What when you have an open door policy, how will you operate your office? Once elected, that would encourage the residents to come in and offer their proposals. How do you
Well,
anticipate operating your office?
what my key thing is for me is transparency. Like one of accountability and transparency is a discussion that everybody's having, and then when the season of politics is over, no one's transparent until the next season. That's not my case. I want to be effective. I want to be effective based on my transparency and being able to tell the people that what is going on. If it's every 60 days, every 90 days, but I definitely want to build my staff that the people is very much informed. My phone, of course, when you get into a position as a senator, your phone is going to be ringing off the hook. I I am accustomed to that through my organization. So I am willing and ready to answer questions as much as I can. Of course, I still have to do the work, but my key thing is that I want to be able, I'm not going to wait until a year and a half to start discussing what I'm doing. I want to start doing things as soon as I get in. I want to be transparent. I want to be able to be out there in the public. I want to be able to use all platforms to be able to inform my people what's going on. It could be the smallest thing. It could be, the biggest thing. I just want to make sure that you know my movements, what I'm doing, my productivity, what my team and I doing, and that's where I feel, you know, my open door is. Um, and I'm approachable, and I'm gonna always be approachable, and I'm always be ready to talk to anyone that has concerns. Can I answer or make? I'm not gonna make any promises because
Uh-huh.
you know how that goes. But I gonna try my best, and that's what I can do.
Well, we know politicians make promises, and one of the things is during campaign season, they talk about how they're going to have town hall meetings, and I haven't seen any. But
Yeah.
are you planning at this time as a candidate to have town hall meetings? Because right now, what I see, people are doing the usual way of campaigning, the canvassing, the going out, and so on and so forth. And we know it's expensive,
Yeah.
but
So
it'd be nice if we could have town hall meetings.
I'm 100% for that. It's going to take all of us to get out of this, and I would love to hear the people's ideas as well to help move the island forward and help us prosper. So for me, I am 100% for it. Within this candidate run, um, I that's something to consider because at times I've held several I wouldn't say town hall, but meet and greet, and
Hmm.
the the attendance wasn't as high as
I know. I attended
so
one, and I thought, but it's
yeah,
a lot of it have to do with the venue too.
yeah,
Some people don't want to go by a bar, okay?
yeah.
So
And I
that
had
could
it
be
at
it.
another venue as well, but you know, and it's expensive to
Exactly.
have to have a area